Hello, it's Maggie again, moving on with the series on Kabbalah and the women of the Bible. Well, so far it's all been doom and destruction and terrible stuff, hasn't it, really? With Sarah and Rebecca and Leah and Rachel. But the great news is now it starts getting to be a little bit more positive. In fact, positively inspirational. Now, the women we've been dealing with have been at or below what's known as the liminal line. They were all acting simply from the tribal survival level. They were following along the mores of the tribe, and the tribe in those days was all about having children. But now we move on to the awakening tribe, moving up to Tiferet, which is the place of Ruth. And she is about stepping out of the tribe. And from now on, in the Hebrew Bible, we get story after story about the importance of moving away from family, moving away from the social convention, moving away from what you were taught was the norm as a child. In fact, becoming an individual. Now, Kabbalah teaches that becoming an individual is not the be-all and end-all of life, but it's the very important stage before we start doing the work of your soul, which is the work of spirit and humanity. Now, Ruth was a Moabite woman. She wasn't Hebrew, she wasn't Israelite, she was what they'd call a heathen. She was married to a Jewish boy. A couple from Judah, Naomi and her husband, settled in Moab because there was a famine. And their two sons married Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. And as time went past, both the sons died and Naomi's husband died too, and she was minded to return to Judah. And she said to Orpah and Ruth, "Stay here and marry again of your own people. I want to go home." And Ruth said to her some of the most beautiful words in the Bible: "Entreat me not to leave you, or to refrain from following after you, for where you go, I go. Your people should be my people, and your God, my God." So we see here that Ruth and Naomi have built a very strong spiritual relationship. And Naomi has obviously been teaching Ruth about the one God, the source energy. Now, Naomi fails to dissuade Ruth from leaving her home, so Ruth goes to this completely foreign country to her with only Naomi as support. And there's no food for them and no income for them. And Naomi says she does have a relative called Boaz, and maybe Ruth could go and glean in his fields. Now, gleaning was the picking up of all the harvest that wasn't picked up by the farmer. And one of the great traditions of the Israelite culture was that when a field was reaped, a lot was left for the homeless and the hungry so that they wouldn't starve. Ruth goes to Boaz and starts gleaning in his fields, and he takes notice of her. Probably she's a personable young lady. And Naomi says to her, "Well, make the most of this." Now, Ruth is not a Hebrew, so Boaz's interest in her should not be of the marital kind. But Ruth is obviously a woman of integrity and great charm, and there's a scene where you can't quite tell what's happening, because after the great harvest where she's helped Boaz and his men to collect the rest of the grain, they obviously have some kind of party and all sleep together in a barn. And there's a part which says that Ruth uncovers Boaz's feet and lays her head upon them. Now, at the surface level, this is basically saying, "I am your bondswoman, do with me as you will." At another level, there is some evidence that there was a colloquial slang in Hebrew that feet meant something further up the male, if you see where I'm going. So Ruth may have said, "I desire you sexually." But whatever happens, she has chosen the right man because Boaz is honourable. And he says to her, "Because of your faith, because of your trust, because of your integrity, I wish to marry you." It's a big thing, because all the way through the Old Testament there is this idea that Jew marries Jew, and that's still very much so in Orthodox Judaism today. Anyway, Boaz has to go and get permission from a closer relative to Naomi to marry Ruth, because Ruth is connected with Naomi. It all gets rather complicated at that point, but in the end they get married, and we assume that they live happily ever after. They certainly found the Davidic line, which is the line of priest-kings, which is so important in Judaism and in the Kabbalistic First Temple tradition. So this is a story which involves sex and lust and a little bit of rock and roll, quite possibly, but the evidence in it is that we thrive when we step out of the tribe, when we step up, when we move on, when we express what we want, and we are willing to humble ourselves to do it, gleaning in the fields, to do whatever it is that makes our life path come true.